Welcome back. As we were talking about the Africa Initiative for Games and Digital Applications Innovation, and we talked about it earlier in our intro, and we're very delighted to be having with us here live Ambassador Ibrahim Jibrin, is ex-Foreign Affairs Secretary for African students in Egypt. Good morning, Ibrahim.
Good morning, Dina. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you so much. We were talking about an initiative that was taken in Africa for games and digital applications innovation. What is the story about it?
Thank you so much, Ms. Dina, for asking me such a questions. Before I talk about the digitalization, I should have to talk about the sport. So if you see the sport itself, it's one of the biggest matters that could bring a brotherhood between the nation, between the continent, and between the youth in particular. So whenever we are talking in regard of supporting the youth, because we belong to youth and we represent youth. That's why our only concern is only on the youth. But for the sport specifically, there are some quite issues that need to be resolved sometimes. If we take the part of football as for example, the previous Cup of Nations that was held in Cameroon. So the football should have to let the people know that they are, they are one family. But the issue is that instead of learning a brotherhood from football, it sometimes creates some bad attitudes towards the supporters. For example, if African international team is playing against Arabian international team, for example, all the Egyptians will definitely support the Arabian team. If, for example, one of the African team is playing against the Arab, all of the African youth will support the African team. Yes. According to my opinion, this is something not good. You have to support the people as they are, not because they are from the same region or we are from the same tribe. And one issue also, according to the media, to be frank, Arab media, sometimes they try to show some priorities or some different, they try to differentiate sometimes between the players themselves. So this also has to be done. Also, as I told you, football game, it will create a mutual connection between the continent. As I could remember in 2019 here in Egypt, there was an Olympic was held by His Excellency Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, President of Egypt. There was an Olympic for the African youth. This is really one of the most strategic way that we can use to bring a mutual connection between the youth, because most of the youth, they only focus on the sports, not only football, like basketball, tennis, all the sport, all the sport activities. As long as they are going to be held in a good way, they will bring a good mutual relationship between the African youth. Yes.
You are one of the most active people amongst African youth, and you have been initiating many campaigns and African initiatives other than this particular one, but you seem to be really considered and concerned about that particular initiative. Talk to us about its aim and targets. Why particularly launching an initiative that is aiming to promote for games and to promote for digital applications at this particular time?
Well, as you said, the aims, according to the way I see it, or in my point of view, is that the best way, as I said earlier, to create a mutual connection between the youth. Now we are in the 21st century. We are in the 2022. We need to globalize. We need to make the world, not only Africa, we need to make the world one family. So the best option to do this is, with sports. Because as long as this is support, it is sending some messages between the nation. I mean between the citizens, any message. So support is going to be one of the best way to send the message between the continent or between the world itself. That's why you can see sometimes the FIFA football try to create some friendly match, for example, between this country and that country, just in order to increase the friendship. So sports have never been, sports are always good in any part or in any sending a specific message between the youth, even between the elders, not only youth. As long as this is support, that is why we have some kind of sports also. But I don't think this sport is popular in Africa. But if you follow Western televisions, you will see such kind of support for older people. So sports always is making a good understanding. Yes, it's bring people together. It's bring a mutual connection. It brings globalization. Always at everywhere.
And it also, you're aiming also to end people from getting biased to their own culture, to their own race, because these are also one of your targets, right?
Of course.
Through sports. But it seems like some people, when they look at this initiative, they would understand that this is an initiative to promote games online or to promote digital applications, but not only sports. But you're mainly aiming at sports, right?
Yes.
But no games.
No games. It depends. It can be sport or games. The sport can be a game, and the game can be a sport. No, I mean, every sport is a game, but not every game is sport. Sport, is sport. It might be, the game might be political, might be economical game, it might be sport also.
You mean the significance and icons for this?
Exactly.
But then when we talk about something online and something that is digital, didn't it cross your mind to consider maybe also cultural initiatives or cultural games, something that would unite people through different histories of each nation or something like that? I know it does not seem like it seems like an old-fashioned initiative, but
yes.
At the same time it would also encourage and set awareness for youth to get acknowledged with the history of different nations and try to, like you were just saying, you kindly said, that brings nations together through culture.
Sure. So, this, as I've been saying before, that anything has to be strategized, has to have a specific strategy. The games, as you say, or the digitalization, as you say. Before, I used to see that something to make a digital, for example, as I could remember when I was in the level 3 university, they told us that the exam or the semester is going to be digital, is going to be on internet. I was thinking that, how can that be? I cannot write exam online, because at that time I used to see that the way I read, I am conservative. I mean that I used to read, for example, I cannot see the screen or the system in order to make to read. I must have to get a hard copy of the papers in order to read. But when it started from the beginning, I was feeling it like this is so much hard. So at that time, we started receiving lectures through Zoom, sometimes through a meeting, and sometimes through this, what do they call this application? Teams. So it started from there. After then, I was thinking, how can we gonna write exam online? How could that be? When it comes to then I realized that this is easier than to have a hard copy and to write. And you will understand, you will focus more, and you do not, you do not feel afraid. While when you are in the class writing an exam with a hard copy of the papers, there was invigilators. There are some people looking at you. You will feel nervous, But while you are in the room, you are writing exam in a digital way online, no one will be looking at you. And by the way, you will not think of cheating from the books. You will not, because your main focus on the time, because there's a specific time to finish the exam.
But it needs adaptation also to have hands online.
Yes, it needs adaptation, as you said. As I said before, I was seeing that this is something difficult. I cannot do something online, because I have I became used into trying to go to the classes, to take my pen, paper, hard copy, to write it in a traditional way. But when it comes, it started from the digital way. Now I'm feeling like I'm digitalized as all. Any something that is not digitalized, I cannot rely on it. Everything needs to be digitalized. And also, His Excellency Mr. President, he has been doing his best also to put this digitalization in the continent. He really supports this digitalization, as
It's
I
one
realize.
of the main goals of sustainable
Yes,
development.
one of the main
Vision
goals of
2050.
sustainable development, as you said, digitalization. And also he has much focus on the Egyptian youth. Not only Egyptians, on African youth also as well. Egyptian government is doing her best in improving the youth, but it needs to do much better than this. The government is doing her best. What I mean by the government needs to do more is that you can see in Egypt, one of African youth come to Egypt. He spent, for example, so many years in Egypt, but he still has to go to the immigration office every year to get a visa. I mean, to get a resident permit. For example, for me as a Nigerian, I have been in Egypt for 7 years almost.
7 years now.
Yes, almost 7 years.
You're becoming an Egyptian.
Yes, I should have to become an Egyptian, but every year I must have to go to the immigration office in order to submit my document, to get or to renew my residence permit. So this has to be upgraded, I think. For example, we as Africans, even if we are not going to be given a nationality, at least, there are supposed to be 5 years residential permit, because Egypt, we can call it the center of African youth, or the capital of African youth. So one thing that will develop it to make this capitalization is that this citizenship should have to be given, because if you look at all the other nations, for example in Nigeria, if you come to Nigeria as, for example, you Adina, right after 3 or 5 years, you become Nigerian automatically.
Really?
Yes, automatically you become Nigerian. Even the developed countries.
I don't have to renew the residence.
You do not have to renew the residence. Even if you look at the most developed countries, Western countries and America in particular, everyone go to the country just after 5 years. He became a national. He became, a citizen. He became a citizen. So I think this is one of the best way that we can use to become one. To become one family. We should have to transfer between the nationalities also. Also, another strategy that we can use to engage, to become our youth, I believe that we must have to exchange the what do I call it? We must have to exchange the personal life. For example, someone from Nigeria, if I had a say in Africa, every African must marry Egyptian, and every Egyptian must marry African. Not a must, but I will give this as a suggestion.
A call.
A call.
A suggestion.
Yes.
But there are programs. Out of that particular idea that
Yes.
you hinted at, there are programs like exchange students, like that students would go a year abroad and another student would go. For civil society, some different associations and organizations like Rotary, for example, they would do something like that. they would send Egyptian youth and would exchange them for European or African.
Yes.
I mean, that's a very good idea. It has been ongoing for a long time.
And you are right, by the way. But I think we can resolve the idea before it happens. What can we do is that to make a free visa. For example, there is no visa from Nigeria to Egypt, or there is no visa from Egypt to Nigeria, and the whole African countries. So if we do not become, I mean, it is not a must to become a one, for example, United States of Africa. It is not a must, but at least we have a strong union in Africa. We have African Union. Through this union, for example, we could make an agreement in order to free visa, or even not free visa, just to make it easier for the youth. This is one of the digitalization also.
Like what happened in European countries.
Exactly, like what happened in European countries.
I guess in the future, this would be likely looking to be
I am feeling also like that. And also, one of the best options to support this digitalization, every matters we must have to leave it digital. For example, if I want to submit a visa, for example, from Nigeria, I do not have to go to the Egyptian embassy at Abuja. For example, someone lives in Kano, someone lives in Kaduna, someone lives in Lagos. But if he wants to apply a visa, Egyptian visa, he must have to go to Abuja Embassy of Egypt in order to apply. The same thing
you cannot apply it
you
online.
cannot apply online. The same thing is happening here. For example, someone is living at Mansoura or Alexandria. He wants to apply for Nigerian visa. He has to come from Alexandria 3 hours to Cairo to go to Nigerian embassy in order to apply for a visa. I think if we make it digital,
this is already taking its way here in Egypt, and it's already applied in some governorates. It has been applied fully in Port Said.
This is better,
and it's going
definitely.
to prevail through whole the. But I can assure you about this digitalization.
We have to digitalize
because it's one of the main aims for the Egyptian administration. It has been applied. It has been taking place in Port Said, and it will prevail all over the governorates.
Yes, we hope
But that's
so.
a good idea, good suggestions that you suggested from the breakfast show. But going back to your very important initiative to bring all youth together through the games and the applications online. Talk to us about how much have you achieved from this initiative so far, and if youth have came up to come with new suggestions or new ideas or something. Talk to us about it.
Well, as you said, the games, actually, I'm not professional in the games, but I follow games and I follow the way it goes. Game, as I said before, is one of the most, the best way we can use to create or to bring the youth together, games. Not only, but there is one thing that I have been against it. Whenever we are talking about games, why the FIFA or the games authority, they only focused on men. Even the ladies should have to be, should have to be open. Even the ladies shall have to be, for example, giving them specific games, because also they have the right to participate in the games. Physical or digital games. For example, during Africa Cup of Nations, for example, why can't we bring ladies, for example, to be there is an African Cup of Nations for
women?
For women, yes. Not only football, all the other games.
But there is soccer ball for women also, right?
Yes, there is. But but the FIFA mostly concerned. It has more concern, yes, on men. I think they have their...
But they are generalizing, actually. They do not specify if it's for women.
They do not specify, but they are supposed to be equality.
Which sounds good.
Yes, they are supposed to be equality at least. Because, as they say, women are the nation, are the one who are making the citizens. As long as you have good women in your country, you make a great country. This is, it has been said.
That's true.
And there was also what I have been saying is that in order to make a good continent, or in order to make a good Africa, according to the way I see it, or in my point of view, any executive order, according to my opinion, in order to make Africa great, or in order to make the world great, any executive position shall be given to younger age, and any legislative position must be given to elders. So if we do this, I believe that we will make a strategic country. We will make a strategic leadership. We will make a strategic youth if the people are ready to work. So actually games, sports, or anything that related to youth is good in making a good country and in making a good continent as well.
But in general, you are against any exclusion. You need to include the youth. You need to include the elderly. You need to include the
exactly. You
the
got
women.
my point. Yes.
That looks perfectly well.
Yes.
I know that you're someone as an African young man. You're full of ideas. You're also taking the lead when it comes to initiatives, and you have quite a personality that would impress anyone. I want you to give us your final thoughts about the future for youth generations in the African continent as we're wrapping up our talk.
Okay, then the future of youth and
how do you expect or look forward?
I have big expectations on the future of African youth. You know, sometimes I think bigger than my mind. I believe so. But as I have been saying earlier, and I will keep saying it, youth have been well trained in our great continent. But we need to be specific. We are not asking the African governments to give us leadership. We need at least to include youth in exercising the decision making. So this is the only way that will let youth participate in the government, because 80% of African youth, as I have been saying, 80% of African youth are youth. 80% of African citizens are youth. It is the only continent in the world, in the entire world, that got this large number of percentage of youth, 80%. So I believe that our youth are becoming better. Our youth are becoming knowing each other, because the Africa of today didn't used to be Africa of before. Before, I think there was no this kind of digitalization between, before there was no phone, there was no telecommunications, but during the civilization, for example, now anyone, when we make something specific, it goes to the entire continent.
Of course.
So
the
youth,
whole time is different.
Yes, so youth are the leaders of tomorrow. I believe so.
Hopefully, inshallah.
Yes.
On this very optimistic note, Ambassador Ibrahim Jibrin, your former Foreign Affairs Secretary for African students in Egypt, we'd like to thank you very much and wish you all the best.
It is a great honor.
Thank you for
pleasure
coming,
to have
and
you.
you have a beautiful day.
Thank you so much.
And we're going to go to a short break, and we'll come to continue the breakfast show, so stay with us.